Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We have a question from a sister trying to explore what she needs to do, being in a work environment, having to deal with male colleagues, like shaking hands and all the other things that come with, the work environment. What advice do we give the sister?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. A lot of sisters ask about certain things related to the work environment,
Right.
especially when it comes to social issues. So this question has a lot of area to explore, but I will focus on the social issue because
Okay.
there is part has to do with the nature of job, halal and haram.
Yes.
Part of it investment, sometimes they give you packages like insurance, blah, blah, blah. People ask a question about that. But I think this question will focus only on the social aspect of it. One of it that's important to know some of the rules. Number one is the issue of khalwa, being
Very
alone
good. Yes.
in
Right.
a segregated area between a male and a female. So khalwa is one man with one woman in an area which is completely segregated and no access to it. And this not allowed, okay, unless it is needed or it is temporary. Temporary like what? Like, for example, elevator.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like basically in a room where people prayed and everybody left and there are still people praying their two sunnahs, a man and a woman. That's a temporary one.
Right.
In a hallway or something like
the
that.
kitchen
passing
where-
by.
yeah.
Kitchen, you go to your kitchen and you're getting your food in. Or also needed, like meeting. There is an evaluation, your boss will evaluate you. He's not going to evaluate you in front of others, or you, the boss, and you want to evaluate a male who works for you. So, and this is not a complete isolated place because anybody can walk into the room. Also in workplace, there's a lot of ethics, requirements and code of ethics that people follow. There's HR, if any kind of harassment or anything like that, you always can protect yourself through these laws and most of the time. So that's dealing with the issue of khalwa, or being alone with a male or the opposite gender. The other question that people commonly ask about is the issue of shaking hands or touching, an opposite gender. If she's a female, shaking hands with a male, vice versa.
Okay.
The issue of shaking hands with the opposite gender, we have hadith in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Nabi sallallahu never shook a hand of a woman and never touched a woman's hand, even though the Prophet sallallahu is like a father to all of the believers, but yet he said, I will not shake a hand of a woman that is not allowed for me. And in Nabi sallallahu something he never did. And it's not part of the culture, it is something he did this religiously. There is also hadith Ma'qil, which is reported by Tabarani, لأن يطعن أحدكم بمخيط من حديد في رأسه, to be stabbed with a pick or something like that in your...
A needle.
A needle, big needle in your head, easier than to touch a woman that is not allowed for you to touch. This is non-mahram to you. But this hadith, from a hadith perspective, it is weak. Some scholars recognize it as authentic, like Al-Mundhiri and others, and some said it's very weak, some said it is just weak. Regardless, the hadith established the fact that we should not be touching a woman, not allowed. But again, Al-Ulama rahimahullah said, unless there is a need for that. Like for example, in case of doctors, nurses, helping someone who needs help. If there is a need for it, not necessity, a need, that will be permissible as long as it without sexual desire. So if the nature of your work, let's say you're a physician and you have to shake hands, everybody coming in, you might, that's a need in my opinion, or you're doing an interview or the nature of your work to do that. But if there is no need for it, and you're going to be every day meeting your co-workers, just establish the fact that you don't shake hands, just from a distance high, and that something will be respected later on and move on. If it is just an incident, just one person didn't know you, somebody boss came from, another and stretch his hand and shake your hand, is not the worst we'll say in this case. It will be one of these minor sins that people involved in it in a regular basis. Just make istighfar and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiveness, make sadaqah, pray and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dhikr. That will wipe, inshallah, this. It's a lemam, it is a very minor sin. Unless you believe in the authenticity of hadith, that will be put it in a different category of sin.
Yes.
I think the Muslim woman and the Muslim man should not take it easy and don't take this lightly, not easy, lightly, and relax around non-mahram by shaking hands, kissing, hugging, stuff like that, because this basically, in my opinion, that melt the identity of the Muslim. And Sharia want to put that partition between male and female and distance,
Right.
because the moment you remove that partition, you remove that distance, that's where the shaitan comes. Even people who are religious, even people who have taqwa, people who have deen. And by the way, those people, shaitan play with them even more, because he win
Right.
two, he corrupt two in one action. So that's why Hassan said, don't be alone with a woman, even if you teach her Al-Quran. So you try your best to do that. Work and business in general, we don't judge the whole entire work by things that happen occasionally, rarely. That will not make your whole entire job haram. Looking for a job that's 100% perfect, nothing ever will be wrong in it, it's very hard to find in these days. And this is what the fuqaha sometimes use the word ammat bihil balwa, became common problem, common violations,
And prevalent, yes.
Yeah, so unfortunately, definitely if you can avoid it 100%, that will be better. Another final point in social issues people ask about is also the issue of mixing. And in this case, I will say the mixing that is not allowed in Islam, where you are so close to the person that physically you can touch each other, and that will be legislated or it will be structured. What I mean by structured is not an occasion. It's not like in the kitchen going to pick up something, passing by each other's, in the meeting, listening. No, I mean, that's the nature of my job, shoulder to this man every day. That will not be allowed, this kind of job. We work, both of us behind a counter, and both of us bump to each other's. For a Muslim woman, she should not do this job unless she has to. That's the only job available for her. She needs this job, because that kind of mixing environment is not allowed. But if there is a distance, if there is majority female work with me, I'm always around them female. Maybe there is a male, but like he's, not too close, where physically we will be touching each other's or bumping into each other all the time, all day long. All these things take the haya away from the heart of the believing men
Creates
and women.
familiarity between people. Yes.
Yeah. So, and by the way, haya is not only for women, haya for men and women.
Right.
So all these rules that I just mentioned apply to both genders. So I hope that will help you to navigate your way in your work. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for everybody and protect our deen.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Sheikh.
You're welcome.